All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating business opportunity that's hiding in plain sight in Turkey's agricultural sector. We're talking strawberries, yeah, but with a high-tech twist that completely changes the game. This is a serious investment case, so let's get right into it. So let's start with a puzzle, a central paradox that really frames this whole thing. Turkey is an absolute giant when it comes to growing strawberries. We're talking fourth biggest in the entire world. But when it comes to exporting them, they drop all the way down to 12th place. So what's with that massive gap, that disconnect? Well, that's where our entire story is. And when you see it laid out like this, the difference is it's stark. This isn't some minor statistical blip. It points to a major structural weakness in the market. And you know what they say? Where there's a weakness, there is almost always a huge opportunity waiting to be found. To solve this puzzle, we first have to figure out what the core problem is. And, surprisingly, the main thing holding Turkish strawberry exports back isn't logistics, it's not trade deals, it's the soil itself, the very ground they're grown in.
See, it all comes down to the plant's biology. A strawberry plant, for all the amazing fruit it gives us, has one big vulnerability. Its root system is incredibly sensitive. These roots are the engine of the whole plant, and in traditional farming, they are under constant threat.
The soil basically becomes the enemy in three major ways. First, if the soil is too heavy or doesn't drain well, the roots literally drown. They can't get oxygen. Second, soil is a breeding ground for nasty diseases like phytophthora root rot that can just wipe out an entire crop. And finally, you're handcuffed to the seasons. Traditional farming gives you a really short harvest window, and that makes it impossible to supply a global market that wants fresh fruit all year round. But what if you could just get rid of the villain of our story completely? This is where technology steps in with a brilliant solution, soilless agriculture. It's all about engineering the perfect, controlled environment that just takes all the risks of soil right out of the equation. Now, success in this high-tech world sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It boils down to getting three things absolutely right. Think of these as the three pillars holding the whole thing up. You get these right, the model works. You get even one wrong, and the whole thing can come tumbling down. Pillar number one is choosing the right plant. And specifically, we're talking about what are called day-neutral varieties. Now, unlike traditional strawberries that need a certain amount of daylight to make fruit, these guys are engineered to just keep going, as long as they're warm and fed. This is the biological key that unlocks a full 12-month harvest. It's a total game changer. This really shows the kind of strategic choice an investor estimate. You've got the Albion variety, which is pretty much the industry gold standard. Great taste, long shelf life, and, this is crucial, it's highly resistant to major root diseases. It's like a built-in insurance policy. Then you have Monterey. It's sweeter, sure, and you get more of it, but it has a fatal flaw. It's really weak against powdery mildew. That's a huge operational risk. For a new investor, Albion is the clear, low-risk, smart choice. Okay, next up, pillar number two, the substrate. This is what you use instead of soil. And the absolute gold standard here is something called cocoa peat, which is made from coconut husks. It's basically the perfect home for strawberry roots. It holds just the right amount of water and nutrients, but also gives the roots plenty of air so they never drown. Plus, it's sterile, so you've just eliminated the threat of all those soil diseases. And here's a critical point. You can't just use any old substrate. For example, rockwool is fantastic for growing things like tomatoes and cucumbers, but all the research shows it can actually hurt the root development of strawberries. The lesson here is so important. You have to match the technology to the specific needs of the plant. No shortcuts. And the final pillar is nutrition. Let's call it the plant's diet plan. In soilless farming, it all comes down to two little numbers. First, the pH has to be between 5.8 and 6.5. If it's outside that range, the plant literally can't absorb the nutrients. Even if they're floating right there in the water, it can starve in the middle of a feast. Then there's the EC, which measures how much food is in the water. Too low, the plant is hungry. Too high, and you burn the roots. Mastering these two numbers is absolutely non-negotiable. So we walk through the theory. It sounds pretty good, right? But now let's look at the hard data that makes this such an incredibly compelling investment. This is where the soilless model really flexes its muscles and proves its superiority. 4 times. That's the one. By controlling the environment perfectly, you can get up to 4 times more strawberries per square meter compared to old-school soil farming. That's not just an improvement, it's a radical leap in productivity. 50%.
That's how much you can potentially save on fertilizer. Because you're feeding the roots directly in a closed-loop system, there's almost zero waste. That means you can slash your fertilizer costs by up to half. That is a massive operational saving.
And finally, 12, as in 12 months of harvesting. Instead of waiting for one seasonal payday, producers get a continuous, steady cash flow all year long. And that's what allows them to supply those big international markets that demand consistency. So let's put it all together head to head. I mean, the difference is just night and day. 4 times the yield, a 12-month season versus a short, seasonal one, taking the very high risk of soil disease and making it zero, and going from low fertilizer efficiency to maximum. I mean, across every single metric an investor cares about, the Soilless model is just the clear, undisputed winner.
Okay, the case is clear. But how does somebody actually do this? Let's wrap this all up by turning this information into a simple, actionable blueprint for any potential investor out there.
Here it is. This is your cheat sheet for strategic choices. For location, you want to be in Turkey's Antalya region. The climate is perfect, which lowers your costs, and the export logistics are already there. For variety, start with the safe bet, Albion. For the substrate, cocoa peat is really the only choice for operational safety. And for nutrition, those pH and EC levels, that's your daily Bible. You get these 4 things right, and you have a solid recipe for success.
And this brings us right back to where we started. The real opportunity here, the big idea, isn't just about growing strawberries better. It's about using proven technology to solve that big picture paradox, to finally close that gap between Turkey's massive production power and its export performance.
So we'll end with this thought. The technology is here, and it's proven. The global market demand is definitely there, and the blueprint for success is clear. The question is no longer if this is possible, but really how quickly will investors jump on this opportunity to position Turkey not just as a seasonal producer, but as a dominant, year-round strawberry supplier to the entire world.